UFC London. These are the full card predictions and the betting breakdown. I'm looking forward to talking about each of the matchups on this card. So make sure you guys smash the likes. If you're new, subscribe. Turn the post notifications on and make sure you share the video too. And also note, I will be live for the entire card Saturday, 1 p.m. Eastern time. Early start, fight companion in the afternoon if you're on the East Coast. So make sure you guys tune into it. And let's get into the first fight on the card. We got Kutateladze versus Kauê Fernandes. I'm going to pick Kutateladze. I feel like even though he is a serious letdown of a prospect, I still think he's pretty decent. I know that Vucenic had some early success against him, but Vucenic also is like pretty crafty. Now, ultimately, Garam's in very good physical condition. He does have a good Muay Thai striking style. He's got a strong ground game. I just feel like Kauê Fernandes is kind of that unknown factor. To be fair, I thought Kauê Fernandes would have had a chance against Jared Gordon. That was a fight that was supposed to take place, I believe, last month. Fight ended up getting canceled. Now he's taking on Garam here. Kauê showcases kind of a karate-influenced striking style. Pretty good from range, good at like darting in and out of range at a high rate. He has that wide stance with snapping kicks. But I have to favor more of the like MMA striking fundamentals that Garam has, kind of Muay Thai-esque striking fundamentals with the possibility of mixing in takedowns. I feel like Garam could outpace Kauê Fernandes over a hard 3 rounds. I'm not telling you Garam to the title, but I'm not fully giving up on Garam Kutateladze, at least getting more wins in the UFC. Kauê Fernandes, he's 1-1 in the octagon. Right? He's got the Mark Jacasey loss, and he's got the win last time out against what? Muhammad Yahya? That guy is the worst UFC fighter, maybe ever at the lightweight class. Garam, say what you want. There's a lot of bad. Tough against Vucenic, but to be fair, overcame a storm against a hyper-talented up-and-comer. And then you look at the fight prior to that, Elves Brenner ends up putting him away after he was doing all right early. His Magulov fight was a toss-up, and then has that, toss-up decision, kind of a robbery win 4 years ago now. My God, Garam made his debut 4 years ago. I feel like that went by like that. I remember Garam's debut like it was yesterday, bro, the early days of the channel. Damn. I'm going to say Garam does take home a W, but it's not going to be an easy fight. The odds are really wide. I was speculating before I looked at the odds what they would sit around, and I anticipated in the -200 range, maybe a little bit towards -250, but nah, Garam's a big favorite, man. Kauê Fernandes is a good striker, but Garam, big favorite. I think it's because he's got a good pace, good gas tank, good durability, and I think there's still a tad bit of hype on him. He's -450. That's a nasty wide line for the favorite. But I have a hard time seeing Kauê chinning Garam. And then for him to outwork Garam over 3 rounds, I just feel like that's on the lower likelihood side. I think Garam, even in a worst case scenario, losing striking exchanges early, I feel like he can eventually get the fight to the ground, garner some control time, take dominant position, threaten, maybe not necessarily with like a deep submission attempt, but at least threaten with submission attempts. I'm going to say that it probably goes over at -175. I think Garam probably takes it home on the judges' scorecards with decent pressure attack, a proven gas tank, and more technical Muay Thai striking style as opposed to more of the karate-influenced kickboxing style that Kauê Fernandes has. Kid's definitely slick, and he can definitely crack with a bit of power, but I'm not sold on a win over Muhammad Yahya, and holy shit, this guy's the dude to watch against the guy who can outwork him like a Garam. And you know what? Another fight, too, is the one before against Jacasey. Sure, he had okay moments in the fight, but he still kind of got outworked and out-wrestled. I think Garam fight with Kauê is similar to that, with Garam's ability to wrestle, I think being better than Jacasey's, to be real with you, man. So I'm going to say Garam. I'm going to say unanimous decision. Should take home a W and finally get a little traction in the UFC with 2 wins in a row. I'm going to go with him to start the night. Next fight on the card, we have Loughran versus Nathan Fletcher. Now, this is a rematch. They haven't fought as professionals, but as amateurs, these two fought, and Nathan Fletcher won a decision. I went back and actually watched that entire amateur fight. If you guys want to check it out, it's on YouTube. It was a good back and forth in the grappling sequences, to be fair, and I think something similar happens. I think Nathan Fletcher, little bit better. Little bit better at jiu-jitsu as he was last time. Little bit better at wrestling as he was last time. Now, Colin Loughran, he's not bad. His striking is quite stiff and awkward, but it's still somewhat effective. It actually really reminds me of like a spin-off of Artem Lobov, but without the punching power. Stands very upright. Like when you imagine like a, stereotypical old school fighting style being completely upright, that is what Colin Loughran brings to the table. True Irishman. Decent little combinations on the inside. His boxing isn't awful. He definitely can throw some heat. Grappling skill set, decent enough. I would say that he has solid jujitsu. It's not a great aspect, right? It's not like extremely high level, but it's good. He's got good jujitsu. I think Nathan Fletcher is a lot craftier with submission threats. I think he's quicker with transition speed. And I'm going to say like the dynamic difference maker, which you actually saw when they first fought, is the wrestling skill set. I favor the wrestling skill set of Fletcher more so than Loughran's wrestling. Now, in the first fight, go back, there were some reversals by Loughran, and I'll assume that he's better at those similar positions now, and we could see something similar that, we saw then. But Fletcher still would eventually find his way back to a dominant position. At one point in their amateur fight, even had a deep triangle attempt. Not trying to compare too much to the amateur days, but like when you watch them fight as amateurs and then you think of their skill set getting better today, you can still see the remnants of that same style on both sides. As far as the striking skill set goes, I feel like Loughran doesn't have like enough true knockout power. I know he's knocked out some guys in Cage Warriors, but as far as taking out Nathaniel Fletcher, I have a hard time seeing it. I don't know. Fletcher, a little bit craftier in all areas, a little smoother with his skill set. And I think that he does have the brighter future in the game. So I'm going to say that Nathan Fletcher can take this one home. I'm kind of feeling like he ends up getting it on the cards. It's not an impossibility, though, that he locks up a sub. And I'm sure that he wants that submission because the first time they went after it, it went 3 hard rounds. And for Fletcher to, really show the dominance over Loughran this time, he subs him up. There's a possibility of such, but I'll say Fletcher is very live to win. Should be the better grappler of the two. Not enthused with Loughran striking. I know he does have a win where he showcased it in the UFC, but Angel Pacheco, no diss on him. Dude's tough as nails, but he's a bit of a fucking punching bag, to be real. And then the fight after that, Jake Hadley did his thing with Loughran, looked way too quick. Fight before, Laplis took a decision over him. And then like this knockout here. Dylan Hazen, I know he had the fucking 9-0 record, but don't be too deceived. It's still Cage Warriors. It's not the UFC. And Loughran, I mean, he's got decent flurries on the inside. He can rip hooks together, at a decent rate, I'd say. Definitely a pressure-based striking style, but I see Fletcher timing some key takedowns. This fight ends up being a lot of grappling, similar to the last time. And I'll say Fletcher is still better than Colin Loughran. Now, as far as the odds, close odds, -135 for Nathan Fletcher to +105 for Loughran. I like Fletcher's chances to get it again, man. The over is -255. Not even interested really in the over, at least not at this point, but just worth mentioning. I'll say slight favorite. Nathan Fletcher takes a win over Loughran as a pro this time out. He had a nice debut against Ziggy Matas Ramaska. That was a pretty good submission. And Ziggy Matas, pretty dangerous striker. I know both guys fought same season of The Ultimate Fighter, and I guess to be fair, neither had great success, right? Fletcher lost on the show. Ziggy Matas was injured. But I think that Fletcher can start to put things together in the UFC. 27 years old. I just think the skill set is quite interesting. And I'm saying that for a second time. He should handle business against a tough Irishman, but somebody that just doesn't move the needle like that for me. I feel like Fletcher has a higher ceiling. And I'm going to go with Fletcher to pull through. So Nathan Fletcher for the win against Loughran. And also remember this, Fletcher, who's fighting at 145 on Ultimate Fighter in his debut, back down at 135. I think that he could potentially be even better at 135. And maybe he locks up a sub. I don't know. As I'm talking about the fight, I'm thinking, damn, it'd be pretty crazy. He subs up Loughran this time. Maybe. There's a possibility, but I do favor decision. We'll talk about props later on in the week. Let's get to the next fight. We got Shauna Bannon versus Puja Tomar. The hope of Indian MMA. Puja Tomar, pound for pound, #1 fighter in the world from India right now. And the only Indian fighter with a win in the octagon as of recent. But I'm going to go with Shauna Bannon, but she's not good. She really isn't. Neither of these girls are very good. Like, you look at Bannon throwing these like quick combination blitzes that she does. The chin is like directly up in the air. She gets sloppy at times. Her side kicks are okay. Footwork is okay. She's kind of fast, but I don't know, man. I'm just not impressed. On the opposite side, though, Puja Tomar, she's kind of like a little wild with her striking flow, southpaw stance. Can put together some powerful and wide hooks. She likes to scream after every shot. And I'd say she's pretty gritty. Like I said, though, she's best fighter from India right here. She also can throw some side kicks, but Bannon's going to be quicker than her, and she's going to have a length advantage, right? Tomar's got a 59-inch reach to Bannon at 65, so 6-inch reach advantage. I think the straight shots of Bannon could get through in this one here. And then I'm also thinking like Tomar doesn't, in my opinion, pose much of a threat in the grappling, right? I don't think she's like taken down and bullying Bannon. And Bannon's been taken down. To be fair, she's looked atrocious. This win against Artelian, she got taken down a bit. It really wasn't a good performance. And Artelian is a journeywoman and lost her fight right after. And then the Bruna Brazil fight, I mean, give her some credit for going, 3 rounds and, trying to fight with her. Striking is not bad. I mean, she comes from the technical kickboxing base. And Tomar, a lot of people felt that she should have lost to Amanda 9 months ago. But she got that split decision. Kind of got outlanded by a fair margin, though. And it's like, fucking hell, bro. She was in one championship. This fight is weird. I would, not touch the betting side with a 10-foot pole. I'd stay the fuck away. But I'll say Shauna Bannon probably nabs 2 out of the 3 rounds. Maybe Tomar hits her with a wide hook. The hope of India, does she pull through with the big upset against, the Irish prospect? I really don't think Shauna Bannon's a prospect, though, at all. I don't think she's good. She's 31. If she was 24, I would be like, okay, she got potential. She's 31, dude. She's not good. Both girls really are not good. I question that we can even consider them UFC level. I don't necessarily think that they'll last long on the roster as they fight fighters like outside of the bottom tier / one another. But I'll say Bannon, quick enough, long enough, gets a close one against Tomar on the judges' scorecards. Minus 175 for Bannon, probably. Plus 150 for Tomar. Let's see here. Over 2.5 rounds, minus 550. Yeah, we're probably going distance. If there's a finish in this fight, I'd be pretty shocked. I'd say it'd be more surprising to see a finish, period, on either side than it would be to see Puja Tomar pull off an upset against Shauna Bannon. Because Tomar is a southpaw. She rips some, weird hooks together, but they're awkward shots, man. And I think that the fact she likes to throw more of those, wider hooks, being at such a disadvantage in range already, I think Shauna Bannon's striking from distance will come in handy. And I think she's technical enough to find a way to win. So I'm going to go with Shauna Bannon to pull through. The hype is not real on her at all as far as like making a run. But she should pull through against Puja Tomar, who, in the UFC by this much. Here by a thread. We're going to go Bannon. Please, move on to the next fight. Please, I need to move on. Please, for the love of God. Next fight on the card, we got Andrey Pulyaev versus Christian Leroy Duncan. Excitement jumps substantially in this one. I'm picking Christian Leroy Duncan here. He should handle Pulyaev. Now, I will give Pulyaev some credit. When he is the one putting pressure on opponents, very dangerous striking. Long reach too, snappy shots. 6'4", has that 78.5-inch reach. Good with his straight punches. Nice left down the center line. Good kicks too. Pulyaev is nice, man. Like his striking from range, and when he's, the guy that's leading the dance with pressure, it looks good. But I think he'll struggle with the athleticism of Christian Leroy Duncan, who's a pretty skilled kickboxer in his own right. I'd also say that Christian Leroy Duncan would probably be the better grappler and the physically stronger of the two. I could see Christian Leroy Duncan mixing in some grappling in this fight and actually finding some success. Pulyaev, even though he was dominant in the striking realm on his Contender Series fight, he still had some trouble with Liam Anderson on the ground. Leroy Duncan's striking flow is definitely a lot smoother than a Liam Anderson. So Pulyaev, maybe on the feet, he's looking like a top 15 guy, but that's not against the Christian Leroy Duncan. Leroy Duncan can mix it up nicely on the feet. He's a good kickboxer, and he's fast, and he's got, I'd say, a relatively well-refined skill set. I know he's coming off the loss to Gregory Rodriguez, but RoboCop is a fucking monster, and Christian Leroy Duncan struggled with the physicality there, but he doesn't have that type of physicality disadvantage against Pulyaev. With Pulyaev, I see him as a stronger guy. He's more explosive as well. Pulyaev is a little sneaky, though, with his straight shot, so got some hand speed on him, but I think when he's getting pushed backwards, he'll get uncomfortable, and I saw him wilt versus that really hyped-up Dagestan kickboxer. What's his name? This guy here. Anvar Bek Denalai Bekov. This guy's actually really good. He was supposed to fight Yusri Belgori on Contender Series, but ended up pulling out. Fight got canceled, and he got pretty pulverized by him. Got backed up, got ripped up, and he looked really uncomfortable. Like he was just turtling up against the cage. And I feel like when I saw that, I'm like, okay, Pulyaev is good when he is the hammer, but as the nail, not very great. Not saying that Leroy Duncan is like amazing at being the nail either necessarily, but I do think Christian Leroy Duncan can win this one. More UFC experience should come in handy. Don't be surprised if he mixes in some wrestling. Competitive striking exchanges between the two. I'm going to say that Leroy Duncan gets it done in a hard fight. This is really wide odds, minus 550. Is that still standing? Even wider now, minus 600. But I have to favor 4 UFC fights over a guy walking in for the first time. Is it 4? No, 5 UFC fights now. 3-2 in the UFC, 29 years old. Christian Leroy Duncan came in with a lot of hype. Andrey Pulyaev plus 450 as a big underdog in this spot. Wow. See, is it an over 1.5? Yeah, it is. I could see this fight going over 1.5 at minus 160. And over 1.5 is not crazy, right? I think there's a real possibility that we get into the later stages of the fight. I think Leroy Duncan can win key exchanges on the inside. I also think that Leroy Duncan is the better striker from close range, but not just being the better striker from close range. He's also better in the clinch too. And I would say he would win those battles, and even, landing knees to the body inside, of the clinch and elbows on the inside. I think Leroy Duncan's better. Maybe like pure boxing from the mid and long range. Pulyaev might be a tad bit sharper. And his kicks are nice, but I feel like it's like the long-range weapons. Even though Leroy Duncan's got a reach advantage, though. Is he going to get picked apart for 3 rounds by Pulyaev? Probably not. I think Leroy Duncan eventually finds his way on the inside. Yeah, I got to go against the Russian striker. I'm going to go with the Brit. I'm going to say that Christian Leroy Duncan has a quality performance, and he continues to develop because, he's been on the roster now for a little while. He's getting his feet wet, and now they're throwing him a debuting guy. I have to favor that veteran experience, and I'm going to say that Christian Leroy Duncan takes out Andrey Pulyaev, probably a unanimous decision. Let's keep running. Next fight on the card, Marcin Tybura versus Mick Parkin. This is actually a fight that gets me very excited. You guys might say, AJ, you're crazy. Why? The sloppy heavyweights going after it, but that's exactly why. The pick. I think Mick Parkin's going to win. I think Mick Parkin has a chance to win. Guys with big power and crazy aggressiveness, they normally fail against Marcin Tybura because they're going to have early success and then they're going to fall apart later. But Mick Parkin is not that style. Mick Parkin is a patient, not necessarily a point fighter, but a patient kickboxer that picks his shots pretty well, stays pretty calm, trains with Tom Aspinall. The biggest question mark is going to be, how is Mick Parkin's ground game? Well, I know that he won by submission on the Contender Series. I know that he's consistently training with Tom Aspinall, which I think is a positive aspect. So I think to myself, let's say the takedown defense is decent, right? Tybura is not a great wrestler. He's good at smothering people to the ground. But let's say, Parkin is calm, calculated, fighting off of a fairly educated jab, working straights. Tybura is going to get outboxed in this fight. Mick Parkin 1,000% is better at striking than Tybura. And I think that him being, let's say, not so explosive or not so fast is going to somehow be an advantage because he's not going to blow his wad trying to get Tybura out of there. I could see Mick Parkin having striking success, Marcin Tybura failing on grappling attempts, and then I could see Mick Parkin getting a TKO with more of an accumulation of volume strikes as opposed to just like a flatline KO. Could he flatline him? I'm not saying he can. He's a 264-pound man that's, primarily a striker. But I think Mick Parkin is well-rounded enough. I know Johan Janiz. You guys look at that fight and you'll say, oh, well, he ran through Janiz, who was a good up-and-comer. Janiz had Tybura badly hurt. But Janiz made the big mistake of, first thing, not knowing anything about jiu-jitsu. I promise you, Mick Parkin's better at grappling. He hurts Tybura and then just trying to blitz him and beat him up with ground and pound against the black belt in jiu-jitsu. I don't think Mick Parkin is stupid like that. I think Mick Parkin's going to have a better fight IQ. And I don't think he has the same power per se as a Johan Janiz, but I do think eventually he can land a pretty big shot on Tybura. And if he's having success boxing him up, Tybura is really not a good striker. I'd say he's a god-awful striker, to be real with you. Tybura is terrible on the feet. Tybura is really good on the ground, but he's got to get you there. And let's say Mick Parkin doesn't blow his wad, he stays calm. We could look at Mick Parkin stopping takedowns, getting tied up in the clinch with Tybura, even winning the clinch battle, landing shots. Add in, Mick Parkin's going to be, normally heavier than the two, right? Last time Tybura was 251. Maybe he's going to come in heavier here, looking for that advantage in the wrestling a bit more. But let's say he doesn't. So we got Parkin, who's naturally a little bit bigger. We got Parkin, who's definitely better at striking, a cleaner striker, a better boxer, 10 years younger, trains with the best heavyweight in the world right now, arguably, Tom Aspinall. Maybe it's John Jones. We'll find out if they eventually fight, for God's sake. I'm going to say Mick Parkin can win the shit. I think so, and he's looked better every fight. The Lucas Drezhki win, ran over Drezhki. I know Drezhki sucks. I get it. But Mick Parkin made it look easy. And it's like every time he gets a little better. Started off a little rocky. Right, some okay wins, didn't look sensational, but he keeps winning and he keeps winning and he keeps getting better. And he's 29. He's a baby at heavyweight and he's working with Tom Aspinall. Matter of fact, I don't think Marcin Tybura is that good of a wrestler. He's just fought guys that kind of one-dimensional as fuck. I mean, listen, Blagoy Ivanov win. Okay, Blagoy's a slow, plodding heavyweight. Tom Aspinall destroyed him in one punch. And then Tai Tuivasa had him badly hurt before getting subbed. And then Sergey Spivak, he actually did land a nice takedown on Sergey Spivak. So I will say Tybura has efficiency with grappling. But to be fair, Spivak has zero striking threat. And then he pulled off an armbar. And then you look last time, Johan Janiz, power shot. Really, Janiz puts himself into this shit position by following the jiu-jitsu black belt to the ground. I'm going to say Mick Parkin can put a calculated performance together and find a way to win. I'm curious what the people are picking. Wow, 65% of the people are on Mick Parkin. I actually didn't know that until now. Wow, popular underdog. I feel like Tybura at 39, probably slowing down a tad, taking some big punches over the past few years. He's been put out before. Mick Parkin's striking looks pretty good. I think his grappling's solid. Like, at this point, man, some of these fucking heavyweights have shit grappling. I'm sure Mick Parkin's a better grappler than the majority of heavyweights. I promise you, Mick Parkin, Johan Janiz grapple, Parkin is going to body him in grappling. So I'm going to say that Mick Parkin, with his striking skills and efficiency in grappling, can win. And the odds are essentially even. Underdog, -105. Mick Parkin, -115 for Marcin Tybura. I'm going to go with Mick Parkin to find the way. Overs -165. Interesting how I think an under is possible. I don't know about probable, but possible. +135 for the under. It's a possibility for sure. I could see Mick Parkin putting combinations together and knocking out an aging Tybura. But also, if it goes 3 hard rounds and Parkin's takedown defense holds up, we could see him just out kickboxing Marcin to a unanimous decision. So give me Mick Parkin as the slight underdog to find a way to win against the crafty vet Marcin Tybura. I just feel it in the air right now, especially at home in England. I think he can take out the Polak. Next fight on the card, we got Loughran Kavanagh versus Felipe dos Santos. I'm going to go Loughran Kavanagh. It's like you almost want to say, oh, Felipe dos Santos could take his back. Felipe dos Santos could catch him with body kicks. Felipe dos Santos could get a close one. But it's like, barely beat Victor Altamirano. A lot of people felt it was a robbery. And then last time out, Andrey Lima dominated him. Loughran Kavanagh's a really good striker. He's so smooth and efficient on the feet. I get it, though. Felipe dos Santos, shoot the box Diego Lima guy, does have some solid grappling skills for sure. But dos Santos gets sloppy, and at times he falls apart. Got, handed a loss last time against Lima, and Lima actually was out grappling him in certain parts of that fight. Loughran Kavanagh, he had a competitive fight with Ochoa. He was hurt a little bit, too, in that fight. Ochoa is another guy coming from the shoot their box team, which just fucking is absolute monsters. I don't know, man. This might be a stretch, but I feel like Jose Ochoa might be better than Felipe Dos Santos. This, the people don't know yet. I think Kavanagh wins. I think he can land big shots on the feet. Dos Santos at times is, like I said, a little sloppy. Kavanagh, more technically sound, very explosive, good kicks to the body. Grappling defense seems to be there. I feel like he could catch Dos Santos with some big shots. I think Dos Santos will try to wrestle, but I feel as though the resilience and grappling from Loughran Kavanagh should be pretty good, because though Felipe Dos Santos is a shoot box Diego Lima guy, and he's got tricky jiu-jitsu, he's not that good at wrestling, man. He's not that high level on the ground. It's like Felipe Dos Santos had the hype train blow crazy when he came in and gave Manel Cop a fairly tough fight. Short notice fight, tricky frame on him, and he gave it hell. Nobody knew anything about him, right? And then the follow-up, like Altamirano probably deserved it, but it is what it is. And then Andrey Lima lost. And now he's going to come through and he's going to give Loughran Kavanagh his first L, who beat his teammate. Granted, Ocha, came in. I think he came in on short notice too, if I'm not mistaken. I should probably double check that. Was it short notice? I don't know why in my mind it was. It's saying it's not. Well, either way, Jose Ochoa is, I think, a talented guy. And for Loughran Kavanagh to win that fight, I think it's impressive. And you might be like, oh, but Felipe's got more, UFC experience. Yeah, but he's lost, man. I don't know. Felipe Dos Santos, he's okay. He's not great, man. I think like we fall into this delusion sometimes. I think less these days, at least myself, and I'm sure many of you. Like at one point, if you were training with, shoot their box Diego Lima, it's like you're the guy. But then they had like Daniel Lacerda, who did horrible in the UFC. And you're like, all right, take a step back and chill. Not everybody from that team is going to be good. Elvis Brenner is taking a handful of losses. He's okay, though. You get where I'm going with this? I think Loughran Kavanagh's got a high level of potential. Nasty striking background, nasty striking skills, freak athlete, good explosive ability. Takedown defense should be there. Overall, his MMA game seems to be blossoming. He's undefeated right now, and I think that he wins against Felipe. Fighting in London, at home, this is the Loughran Kavanagh show. He's going to beat Felipe. Does he knock him out? Hard to say, hard to do. I'll probably say decision. I'd love to see a knockout. I'm thinking a lot of these fights go long. I'd love to see a KO. I hope so. But Loughran Kavanagh on the scorecards against a tricky guy like Felipe, definitely a possibility. But to be fair, at times Felipe's a little stiff and off balance. He could get caught with something big. Kavanagh definitely cracks. Next fight on the card. Jai Herbert versus Chris Padilla. I'm going with Chris Padilla to win. I can't pick Jai Herbert, man. I can't. I refuse to at this point. Jai Herbert is a tricky kickboxer. And he's very long. He's got decent hand speed. But to be fair, his recent opposition has been matchups that are quite favorable towards him. Rolando Bedoya, who turned out to be terrible. Another guy, shoot the box Diego Lima, who really hasn't done that well. And I think he's out of the UFC now. And then Faraz Ziam, in a competitive one, Faraz Ziam handled him. The Ludovic Klein fight, he looked very good. That was 2 years ago, though. That was 2 years ago. Again, completely different style than Taco. Kyle Nelson win is okay, and then the Ilia Topuria loss. To be fair, he hurt him bad with a high kick. But at the end of the day, Jai Herbert, 36 years old, long, rangy striker. The thing about Taco Padilla is he seems to be kind of, I want to say in some ways, unpredictable. Yes, he has strong wrestling in the back pocket, but he showcased disgusting elbow skill set against Rong Zhu last time. Also has very good, I believe, fight studying. They talk about this all the time. Padilla is one of the guys that watches a shitload of footage. So if he is watching a lot of footage, then he should recognize that Jai Herbert will at times expose himself to takedown attempts that could potentially land for the opposition. Now, fighting guys that are, more so of, what would the word be, purist in the striking. Faraz Ziam is decent on the ground, and Ludovic Klein's got some takedowns. Klein actually got Herbert down, but like a Rolando Bedoya ain't out wrestling him. I think Padilla's athletic wrestling could be a factor in this fight by timing takedowns on Herbert's offensive attack. Now, they talk about in the commentary, I've heard it before, that Jai Herbert is a black belt of wall work, so he's really good against the cage. But I think Padilla could be a little stronger there. Still, takedowns in the open mat are something that interests me here for Padilla. As far as striking-wise, Herbert's going to have the distance striking advantage. I don't think anybody's arguing that. He's got nasty kicks. He's got decent enough straight shots. But is he high kick KOing Chris Padilla? Probably not. What happens when it turns into a dogfight? Jai Herbert thrives against technicians. Chris Padilla, he's not lacking technique, but he's slightly unorthodox in a certain manner that I think it can give Jai Herbert problems. I think in close range, the elbows of Padilla are a factor. I think knees to the body are a factor. Clinch work is a factor. Padilla will be stronger in the clinch. Now, Jai Herbert being relatively tall, it will make clinch takedowns rather difficult because of the leverages, but I do think Padilla could drag this thing to the ground after landing some shots on the feet. And if he can turn it into more of a dog fight, then Jai Herbert, I think, struggles, right? Jai Herbert, as of late, even though, it's been, some wins on the resume, right? Last time with Bedoya, with Kyle Nelson, even Ludovic Klein, Farazian. All of those fights are against guys that are just like a little more of a point fighter. I don't want to call them point fighters, but you get what I'm saying? More calculated pace. They can be calm. Padilla, he just has this unorthodox martial artist flow to his style, which I think he can use to capitalize here. I could see Herbert having striking success, backing Padilla up, and then squaring himself up to then be taken down. I think Padilla on the ground is going to showcase a big physicality advantage. Padilla's been fighting a long time, man. Momentum's in his favor. Herbert, say what you want. Oh, the draw with Ludovic. He's won some, he's lost some as of recent. Padilla, he's surging. He's 2-0 in the UFC. The momentum is strongly in his favor. He's 29 years old. I think he's getting better each time. Right now, he's hitting his prime today. He's not hitting his prime a couple years ago. I'm not sold on Jai. I always feel as though Jai Herbert he leaves things to be desired. I remember when Francisco Trinaldo chinned him in his debut. And I don't know. I just don't think he's that good, man. I don't. Like, okay, the Ludovic Klein fight. People will ride with that. Oh, well, he gave Ludovic Klein trouble. If it wasn't for an illegal shot, could have got the draw. Could have got the win. It's 2 years ago. He's 36, nearly 37. Padilla right now is bursting on the scene. Padilla, grappling skill set, I think better. Inside fighting, better. Physicality, stronger. I'm going to say Taco Padilla finds a way. I think he could potentially lock up a submission here against Jai Herbert. And it wouldn't be shocking if, they go a hard 3 rounds and then Padilla outdogged him. Because I do think Padilla's got the dog in him. Padilla's a dog fighter. Sometimes, it takes a round, like with Rongju. Round 1, Rongju was throwing a lot. But Padilla was making his reads, finding his timing, and then he landed a perfect elbow that shut the eye of Rongju. With Yontop was going after him crazy. Padilla was able to capitalize with some wrestling. He finds ways to win fights, man. And he's a sophisticated fighter. I think he's smarter than you would assume, Fight IQ for Padilla, I think, is a positive aspect of his game. Herbert, being more the traditionalist kickboxer, I don't think he's beaten the unorthodox flow of Padilla. And to be fair, another positive aspect of Padilla, he has a good defensive ability. Blocks headshots, especially, really nicely. Sometimes the legs get chopped up. They did with Rongju a little. But I think he's got the toughness and grit to stay in it, even if, the legs are getting chopped down. I'm going to say that Padilla finds a way. Padilla finds a way. I see him finding a way. I see him outdogging Jai Herbert. I see him finishing Jai. Plus 110 for Padilla, minus 130 for Jai Herbert. Let's see. Is it an over 1.5? No, it's an over 2.5. I think this fight could end inside of the distance. It's a mention. It's a mention on a Sunday night. I'm going to say that Taco Padilla, live underdog this week. Dangerous on the inside, which I think is an advantage. Jai very tall. And I think the wrestling edge, I got a favor to Taco. I like the chances for Taco, man. The momentum's in his favor, too. I think Jai Herbert's getting outdogged at home. Chris Padilla, younger man, more savage man, finds a way to beat the kickboxer. We're going with Taco for the W, man. Let's keep running up the card. Next fight brings us to our main card opener. If you haven't yet, make sure you hit the likes. And if you're new, subscribe. We got Nathaniel Wood versus Morgan Charrière. I'm going to pick Morgan Charrière. I'm going to go with Morgan Charrière. I think he can win, man. He's a physically stronger individual. He's a naturally bigger guy. He's more explosive as an athlete. I think he hits harder, too. Nathaniel Wood is pretty crisp. He's got good teeps up the center, works good straight punches, nice movement, but is a former bantamweight, smaller guy. Morgan Charrière is a strong individual. Morgan looks pretty jacked at 145, too, and he gave Chepe Mariscal trouble, and he was able to have takedown success with Chepe. And Chepe's kind of on fire right now. And I think Charrière is also kind of a beast at high-paced and scrappy fights, whereas when you have Nathaniel Wood, you have the technician. Nathaniel Wood likes to control the pace, fight technically, right? He's a very sound technician. His skill set is impressive. He's got a very clean striking technique. But at the end of the day, it's not always about looking clean, right? When Charrière gets on the inside and starts winging bombs on him, cracking him with explosive punches, right? When he puts Wood on the back foot, right? Has him backing away. How is Wood going to deal with that? Wood can't generate a lot of power. He doesn't hit that hard. I mean, he showed a little pop against Pineda, but it was more precision. It was more precision that got him, the teeps that hurt him and the shot up top that hurt him. It was more precision than knockout power. Charrière is physically a menace in his prime right now. Good pressure fighter, good physicality. I think he's going to be in the face of Nathaniel Wood. Nathaniel Wood's got nice calf kicks. He moves nice. He's a good round winner. He's won rounds nicely in fights. But I feel like Charrière can outwork him. And I'm going to say Morgan Charrière is live to take home the win against the prospect Nathaniel Wood. I feel like he's a little undersized here. I could see Charrière taking him down, put him on his back. Like Nathaniel Wood last time against Pineda for the whole third round pretty much, right? He was uncomfortable. He was on his back. Wasn't a great finish to a fight that looked good in the first two. Charrière is going to keep that pace on him all 3 rounds. I think he's going to be in his face all 3 rounds. He's a very experienced guy. He's got over 30 pro fights. Also 2 years younger than Wood with more experience. And, fought good opposition outside of the UFC. I mean, Cage Warriors, but he's fought all the Cage Warriors prospects. I'm going to say Morgan Charrière outworks Nathaniel Wood over a hard 3 rounds, maybe times some key takedowns, wins some key exchanges, lands bigger punches on the feet. I'm feeling like Charrière can take home a gritty win. If you can turn it into more of a dog fight, it's a Charrière fight. If it's a tactical and textbook technique style kickboxing match, then yeah, Nathaniel Wood would be live to outpoint him and, take 3 or 2 out of the 3 rounds, I'll say. But if it's more of a scrap, if it's more of a high output, high volume fight, I think Charrière is going to be the one that has more gas at the end, and I think he's going to be the one pushing harder for the 3. So I'm going to say Morgan Charrière kind of puts Nathaniel Wood in the blender and outworks him in a hard 3-round fight. Definitely an interesting matchup. I was a little surprised to see Charrière as, a fair size favorite at open. He was actually plus 205. The line completely flipped. Wow. Minus 165 now for Charrière with Wood at plus 145. It's a close fight. It's more of a 50-50. I see it as like a minus 110. In my mind, I'm seeing it as really who can implement the game. Can Nathaniel Wood control range? Can Nathaniel Wood control the pace of the fight? I have a hard time saying he can. I think Charrière could take Wood down. I think Charrière is going to put a pace on him. I think Charrière is going to land big shots. I think Charrière is stronger. I think Charrière is more explosive. And I'm going to say Morgan Charrière outdogs Nathaniel Wood in a hard fight. I do think we're going over 2.5 here. It's minus 220. I got a pretty good hunch about that one. And I'm going to say Charrière takes it home. 2 rounds to 1, maybe even 3 rounds to zip. He's going to be in Nathaniel Wood's face throwing hard shots. I see him catching him with big punches, and I think he could time some takedowns too and make Nathaniel uncomfortable. So going to go Morgan Charrière to take home the W. I feel like he's pretty decent. The loss to Chepe was a good back and forth fight. I rewatched that. I'm like, damn, bro. Like, Charrière is on that Chepe mentality. And Nathaniel Wood, I feel like he thrives against the tactical guys, right? You look, Charles Jourdain, technically sound, right? Charles Rosa, not that technically sound. Andre Fili, right? More technician style, and he gets a unanimous decision. The Nemov lost. There were fouls in the fight, but he did ultimately still lose that fight. Daniel Pineda, right? Kind of a chaotic wild man, but well past his prime. Definitely doesn't have the same striking skill set at this point that Charrière does, nor does he have the same explosive output that Charrière does. So I'm going to say Morgan Charrière can handle business. He's coming off that win against Miranda. He looks solid. The loss to Chepe was decent. Easy work over Zacchini. Morgan Charrière, unanimous decision against Nathaniel Wood. I'm going with him. Let's keep running up the card. Next fight on the card, we have Jordan Vucenic versus Chris Duncan. I'm going to go with Jordan Vucenic. You pick Jordan Vucenic and you're like, yo, this is going to be a damn interesting fight. Then you look at the odds and you're like, shit, in the minus 300 range? The betting odds, they surprise me sometimes. But I do think Vucenic wins. I like Vucenic's game overall. He's got very good and crafty jiu-jitsu, right? He's an athletic grappler. He's a tricky grappler. Came in on super short notice and gave Kutateladze all he could handle early in the fight. And his striking looked really good. He dropped Garam in the first round. He showed power. Chris Duncan is a good brawler. He likes to scrap. His style is brawl heavy. He's coming off that nice win against Błachowicz. He did get stung a little bit on the feet before locking up the perfect ghillie, but Błachowicz was just like low IQ'd with the grappling takedown attempt and like left his neck out there. Vucenic's not doing shit like that. Vucenic is going to be, I think, slicker with jiu-jitsu. I think he'll be a little quicker than Chris Duncan on the feet. Duncan's also relatively hittable. I mean, we've seen him stunned on the feet before. Did land a big shot against Manuel Torres, but then got fucking destroyed on the ground. So it's like, how can I be confident here with a Chris Duncan against Vucenic, who seems to be a very promising grappler? Debut on short notice, dropped Garam Kutateladze and showcased power, whereas Duncan at times has shown vulnerabilities in the striking department. I'm going to say Vucenic finds a way. I think that he's more technically sound, a little bit cleaner and crisper with his striking technique, though I'll say I would favor the power of Duncan in a more traditional sense, though Vucenic showcased power against Garam. And I'll say the grappling of Vucenic, I think, is better than Duncan's, but it was a high IQ move to lock up that ghillie like he did against Błachowicz, but Oki just left his neck out there. Vucenic is not doing shit like that. I think Vucenic could get this fight to the ground. I think Vucenic could showcase his true grappling skill set. The kid's good. I mean, he's a nice finisher. You can see ghillie there, Kimura there, rear naked choke there, and rear naked choke there. He's a finisher, and when fights hit the ground, he hunts for submissions. And I can't really knock him for a super short notice loss to Garam. So now I'm like, okay, I got Vucenic coming in on a full camp after doing what he did against Garam on short notice. On a full camp, I think this fucking kid could be terrifying. I'm going to say Vucenic handles business against Chris Duncan. I think he's live to submit him too. Could end up going a hard 3, but I don't know. There's something screaming about submission here, especially seeing Manuel Torres take his back and just strangle Duncan. I feel like Vucenic could take his back and strangle him as well. So I'm going to favor the epidemic. I'm going with Jordan Vucenic over Chris Duncan. Odds for the fight, minus 360. At open, it was minus 160. Holy shit, they're wide odds, man. A lot of money's come down on Vucenic, I guess. Plus 285 for Duncan. I mean, he's a scrappy underdog, but I don't know, man. I would not assume Chris Duncan fares well with Garam on a few days' notice, right? I'm not trying to use MMA math, but just saying. I think this fight probably goes under 2.5 at minus 115. I think the fight does end inside of the distance. And I think it's more than likely Vucenic subbing up the gritty Chris Duncan. Vucenic's also like fine in striking with Chris. I know Chris got a little power, but I feel like Vucenic's good on the feet. I can see him landing his own shots, to be fair. I don't think he's a bad striker. I think he's pretty quick. And then you look at the grappling, like I favor Vucenic's jiu-jitsu by a pretty substantial margin. So I'm going to say Vucenic, as the better grappler, finds the submission here against the gritty and always game Chris Duncan. But, you know, a little bit of a wild man. I don't want to say it's the fluke factor with Duncan, but at times he is the fluke factor. Win against, Ash Moose wasn't bad, but like, to be fair, Ash Moose's big win is against Trevor Peek, Omar Morales split, but Morales like had no heart whatsoever. The Charlie Campbell fight was a crazy back and forth, but again, Duncan shows vulnerabilities. Like with Slava, he got knocked out, and then he landed big shots too, but he gets hit a good amount. Even early against Balaji, he was getting pushed back and he looked uncomfortable. I'm gonna say Vucenic finishes this fight. I'm gonna go Jordan Vucenic for the W, and I'll say that he takes home a submission. Let's go. Let's go. I'm excited for this fight, man. I want to see Vucenic get back on track. If you can look good on days' notice against Garam, I think you can look great on a full camp against Chris Duncan. Next up, we got Molly Meatball McCann versus Alexia Thainara. It's got to be Thainara, right? She's got to win. She's coming in on short notice, which I don't love, but young girl at 27, training with Amanda Hebos. I mean, Molly McCann, she's a god-awful grappler. I guess she's not that bad. She did lock up Belbita in a sub, and, she looks okay at times, but Bruna Brazil out-grappled her, and Brazil is pretty much a kickboxer. Brazil, though, actually has the win over Thainara. That's her only pro loss on that Brazilian regional scene, but She was mad young at the time. Thainara looked dominant fighting this girl from LFA. That performance was good. She kind of reminded me of like a female Vinicius Oliveira in striking. She got good speed, kind of unorthodox a little bit, has the hands a bit low, but nice kicks, good creativity to her striking attack. I'd say pretty clean with her accuracy and a good pressure-based style. And the reason that she's so confident with pressure is because she knows she's got a solid ground game. On the opposite side, Molly Meatballs, I mean, she's got some heavy hands. Like, she's had some sick knockouts, but like, bro, she's a manufactured hype train. Like, she is. Like, let's be real. Let's keep it a buck. You know, they try and feed her favorable matchups. Do you know Molly McCann was supposed to fight Estela Nunes here? Estela Nunes has lost 4 straight motherfucking fights. They were feeding her a girl that she had a real chance to win against. Thainara will fucking mollywop Estela Nunes. There's levels to it. Alexia Thainara has legit potential at 27 years old. I think that she has the skill set that could go towards the top 15. I don't know about, next year or anything like that, but eventually. And I feel like Molly Meatballs could get outstruck and outgrappled in this fight. I feel like Thainara can hit her with some big shots. Molly's body was getting destroyed by Bruna Brazil, but she is gritty. She was able to, overcome the tricky, body shots and survive. But I feel like Thainara lands some power shots on her. I think Thainara chops her up with some kicks. It's really about how does Molly fight. Is Molly going to look to grapple? Because if she does, if Molly's like getting touched up on the feet and tries to grapple, I could see Thainara locking up a submission. The girl's got what, like 8 submission wins? 6 submission wins. All right, 6 submissions. I don't know why I thought 8. Be better if it was 8. It would sound cooler. But still, 6 submission wins, dominant on the Contender Series against, an unbeaten prospect. And then, some wins against shit cans in Brazil, but it is what it is. The technicality is there. Training with Amanda Hebos's team, I think, is a pretty good sign. The jiu-jitsu should be better. So I'm going to say Thainara, trickier striker, more explosive and athletic. And then on top of that, I would favor her grappling skills over Molly Meatballs for sure. What's interesting is even though Thainara is coming in on mad short notice, she's a 2-1 favorite, dude. I was almost like, do I just go Molly Meatballs for the memes? But no, I won't. I can't logically back Molly here. I feel like Thainara looks good. I feel like Molly Meatballs, like, yeah, she's got the fluke factor. She can catch you with a spin elbow, a wild looping shot, win a crazy back and forth fight, but she's not super technical. She's more of like a brawler that has to kind of throw you in the blender with some chaos, and you got to kind of agree to that. And then Thainara being quicker and more explosive, I think finds success. Over 2.5 minus 260. I mean, it's live to go over. I don't really like it. I think Thainara is going to get the win. I could see her outworking Molly over 3. I don't like the short notice, right? Because, oh, shit, short notice fight. What if she wasn't training hard? I think she would be. I don't know. Something tells me Thainara is locked in, man. She seems like a hyper-talented up-and-comer. I like her kicking skills. I like her striking from the mid and the long range, and I don't think she's awful from in close either. Seems like a really good athlete. And Molly Meatballs, I mean, always got the puncher's chance, but I think she's just taking on a girl with more promise. I'm going to favor her. I'm going to favor Thainara, which, listen, debut fight, not easy. Because Molly Meatball's been around, right? She's been on the roster a long time. But she is flawed, and we've seen her take, a good handful of L's. But at times, she has good moments, like against Diana Belbita. But then fight before, I mean, she lost to Stoliarenko, who's pretty bad, right? She got destroyed by Stoliarenko, who's shit. So I'm going to say that Thainara is live for a submission. She has to be here against Molly Meatballs. But I'll favor decision, though. I'll say Thainara wins on the judges' cards. I don't love this short notice spot, though. Coming in, debut against Molly, who's got a lot of UFC experience, even if, it's a lot of manufactured fights that are kind of set up for her. But definitely, like, if you're Molly McCann, you went from preparing for maybe the worst strawweight on the roster in Estela Nunes to now you're preparing for a girl that just won on Contender Series, is 11-1 as a pro, very much a legit prospect from Brazil that trains out of a good camp with the Hebos family. So I'm going to favor the young Thainara, but I do recognize that Molly's been around, and I don't know if Thainara is really a good bet. I don't think so. I wouldn't. I mean, I can see why you want to go Molly Meatball as a savage dog and lay it down. She got a chance to land some blistering shots. Her boxing's not bad, but I just think Thainara could be more crafty. And I guess I don't know where Molly's at nearly 35 now. So let me pick Thainara. I'll go with her. I'll go with the short notice girl. As I'm talking, I'm like, am I selling myself on Molly here? I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm sticking with Thainara. Maybe things go awry Friday after the weigh-ins, but as of now, I think that Thainara has more skills. So I'll pick her. Next fight on the card. Featured fight. We got Kevin Holland versus Gunnar Nelson. Kevin Holland's back, baby. Oh my gosh. I'm going to go with Gunnar Nelson. Shit. It's not that I want to. It's because I feel like I have to. I'm hoping that Kevin Holland knocks him the fuck out, but my God, his grappling's looking worse. I mean, he's given up takedowns in his past 2 fights. Gunnar Nelson's really good at grappling. Gunnar Nelson's got nasty takedowns. Legit jiu-jitsu black belt. And I know, Kevin Holland's got a black belt too, but fuck, bro, there's levels to jiu-jitsu black belts. Gunnar Nelson has good body lock trips. He's got good takedowns. He shoots a lot. He's got a very wide stance, awkward striking flow. He's in very good physical condition. I don't know where Kevin Holland's head is at. If this is Kevin Holland 2.5 years ago, maybe we're having a different conversation. But I don't know with Kevin Holland if he has anything left. He seems like he's just taking fights for money. And if it was okay, he took 6 months off and now he's fighting Gunnar Nelson. But dude, he fought a little over a month and a half ago and Rainer de Ridder subbed him in the first round. So not much time to improve the wrestling. We know he's weak in wrestling. Now, it could be the argument, okay, well, Kevin Holland, when he fights more actively, he's better. Now that, he just fought a little bit over a month ago, does he come back looking better? Shit, it's been 2 years since Gunnar Nelson fought. I hate this pick. I literally hate this pick. I don't like Gunnar Nelson. I've always hated his upright style. He looks so cocky with the way that he stands, with his chin here, punch me. But then he's fucking taking all these guys down and subbing them. Oh my God, this fight is torturous. Now, Kevin Holland looked good against a grappler. He looked good against Chiesa. Is he going to chin Gunnar Nelson? Am I about to pick flip live? I'm seeing what I wrote down here. Kevin Holland, good boxing combinations, good speed from the outside, but god-awful takedown defense these days. God-awful grappling. But at 185, though, what about at 170? Hamzat did it to him, but it's Hamzat. Is he reinvigorated and remotivated? Am I about to do it live? Am I about to pick flip it? You know what? Fuck this. I'm going Kevin Holland to knock Gunnar Nelson out because Kevin Holland just has to find a way to win. I just think he's not done yet. And Gunnar's 36. He hasn't fought in 2 years. And let's be real. The competition Gunnar's fought is shit. I'm flipping the fucking pick live. I don't care, man. I was going to pick Holland and then I flipped to Nelson. No. Holland finds a way. I don't like Gunnar Nelson. I don't think he's that good. I think he's got good grappling, but he's fucking slow on the feet. He didn't finish Sato, but Sato is a judo grappler. He's trash, bro. Sato's shit. Brian Barberena is terrible at grappling. Kevin Holland makes Brian Barberena look like a white belt. And I know Kevin Holland is a black belt on paper. Where did he get this black belt? Robert Drysdale's a good black belt. I don't know, man. Kevin Holland's wrestling's always sus. I don't know where the hell his head is at. I guess I got to pick him. He's got a huge reach advantage. As I start talking to you guys about the fight, I keep seeing Gunnar Nelson failing a takedown and Holland actually having striking success. And the fact that Gunnar hasn't fought in 2 years, I'm having such a hard time being yeah, he's going to get it done. Listen, 2 years. How many fights Kevin Holland got in the past 2 years? What was 2 years ago? About 2 years ago was his win over Santiago Ponzinibbio. So he's got 7 fights. 7 fights since the last time Gunnar Nelson has fought. Gunnar Nelson is extremely inactive. He's a grappler, but he keeps his hands super low. And I feel eventually he's just due to get flatlined again. Ponzi also knocked him out bad. I think Kevin Holland could find this, man. The Oleg Jachuk sub, but Holland was getting touched. It's just, with Kevin Holland, you never know. If Kevin Holland was 100% dialed in and motivated, and I knew he was training his ass off, I would be yo, Kevin Holland's going to fucking embarrass Gunnar Nelson. He's going to stop his takedowns because of his height advantage and his length. He's going to force him into a striking fight, and he's going to make Gunnar uncomfortable, and he's going to make him turtle up, and he's going to finish him. And I'm going to say that happens. I think we get a motivated Kevin Holland. He's dialed in. At 170, he's better. Fighting more consistently, he is better, right? When we see Kevin Holland all the time, I feel he does a little better. Saw him a little less than 2 months ago, and he lost to Rainer de Ridder, but de Ridder's a big boy. De Ridder got him down easy and subbed him easy. But to be fair, De Ridder is huge compared to Gunnar Nelson, who's shorter than Holland, 9-inch reach disadvantage, 36 years old versus Holland at 32. Holland's a way better explosive athlete. I feel like at 170, Kevin Holland's takedown defense holds up. So I'm going with Kevin Holland. Fuck going with Gunnar Nelson. We're flipping it to the right side of history right here live. I had to do it. I felt it in my gut. I couldn't go against it. I'm going Kevin Holland. Enough of this shit. Gunnar Nelson's 2 wins are against scrubs, man. What, 5 years? Oh my God, 5 years ago, he went to decision with Gilbert Burns. Oh my God, 6 years ago, he went to a split decision with Leon Edwards. 6 years ago, bro. 6 years ago. That's 6 years ago, dude. That's 2019. Oh, he beat Alex Oliveira 6 years ago. Nah, fuck this. Kevin Holland for the win by knockout. Enough of this bullshit. I knew the pick all along was going to be Kevin. I just had to put you guys through a roller coaster ride of emotions. We had to all feel it together. I left this one open-ended for me. All right? I said, listen, I'm going to pick as we start. I'm going with Kevin Holland to find a way. Plus 115. Give me the dub for Holland. Opened up at minus 135. What, the confident Gunner? Minus 135 for Gunner? Nah, fuck this guy. I'm sorry I'm shitting on you, Gunner. If you're watching, dude, I'm not trying to flame you too bad. I like Kevin. I think Kevin's good, bro. I like Kevin's style. When he's on one, he's absolutely on one. Over is plus 135, under minus 160. I don't care about that. I don't even know why I'm looking at it. Give me the underdog, Kevin Holland. I think Holland could clap Gunnar Nelson. Enough of this crap, bro. It's time for Kevin Holland to get back on track. And I think a matchup against Mr. Karate and Jiu-Jitsu, Gunnar Nelson, is the perfect fight for him. Holland's way more explosive, way more powerful. He's going to be bigger, stronger. The takedown defense is going to hold up. Please, MMA gods, the takedown defense holds up. And he's going to knock Gunnar Nelson out. Give me Kevin Holland. Give me the KO. Gunnar, you're going flat out like you did against Ponzi years ago. I need one of those knockouts. Can't wait for Gunnar to lose, man. I remember rooting against Gunnar Nelson when I was a kid, bro. And I'm doing it again. Give me Kevin Holland. Co-main event. We're going Jan Błachowicz versus Carlos Ulberg co-main event. I'm not picking Jan, no. I'm going with Ulberg. I'm sorry, guys. I know a lot of you guys were like, please, the legendary Polish power. I can't. I went back and rewatched the Rakic fight, too. Because I'm like, all right, I need to go back a while. And he looked good against Rakic. There were some moments, right? Kicks were not bad. Striking flow was good. Landed some decent punches. Got taken down and controlled a bit by Rakic. Then I'm like, all right, since that point, Rakic has got exposed. He looked good, ripping at the legs early against Ankalaev, then got his ass beat late. And then, against Alex Pereira, he went tooth and nail, loses a split decision. He tried to just hold him down and wrestle fuck him. Now he's fighting Carlos Ulberg, who's absolutely primed. Add on top of all these other circumstances, like, he hasn't fought in a year and 7 months, and Jan Błachowicz. Dude is coming off of a shoulder surgery. I don't know where that shoulder's at. He says it's feeling good. He seems ready to go. He's talking about how he feels like $1 million. Everything's back and flowing. But I don't know. He's 42 years old. How much can the body recover, man? Right? About a year ago, he got that surgery. I just think that Carlos Ulberg is on fire right now. Ulberg has extremely technical kickboxing skills. He's got good reflexes. He's got knockout ability for sure. But he's also very patient, and he's shown a serious evolution in his game over the past couple years. And he has a little bit of a personal vendetta in this one because Adesanya lost to Jan up at 205 when he shot for dual champ status. And I think Carlos Ulberg wants to get one back for his boy. A 42-year-old Jan Błachowicz, who hasn't fought in a year and 7 months, it's just hard for me to make that pick. I think he'll look a little slower, and I think he was already showing signs of slowing down a tad bit, relying on wrestling a lot now against, guys like Alex Pereira in certain matchups against dangerous strikers. But I think Carlos Ulberg is going to be too quick with the takedown defense. I think he'll make Jan pay as he tries to enter the pocket. I think that Jan is going to try and grapple for sure, but I think Ulberg's footwork is going to be on point. We're in the big cage, which I think gives even more of an edge to Ulberg defending takedowns. I don't think Ulberg's getting grapple fucked by Jan Błachowicz. I have a hard time seeing it. I'd be shocked almost. And I think that Ulberg's takedown defense looks good. His footwork is precise. His striking flow is good. I think he picks his shots nicely. I'm seeing Ulberg knocking out an aging Jan with like a counter hook. Not that I want to see it. I mean, I would like Jan to put up a good fight. The legendary Polish power gives it a good final go. But at 42 years old, man, Ulberg he's getting better. He's looking good. I like Ulberg's style. He's very precise, right? And I think Jan is too slow. Right? Ulberg is quick. He snaps his shots nicely. He's very mobile. The mobility advantage, the striking from range advantage. I think even at this point, as much as the legendary Polish power is big, the power advantage, because Jan is going to have a hard time being accurate with those power shots. He's going to wing big shots over the top. If at 42 years old, Jan Błachowicz can beat Carlos Ulberg, that would be amazing. And you know what? Fucking give him the title shot. I don't care. I'll be down for it. Give him the rematch against Ankalaev. Run the Pereira fight back. I don't know. Anything for him. But Carlos Ulberg he's a good talent, man. Carlos Ulberg, I feel like, is somebody that's going to be fighting for the belt this year or maybe early next year. I feel like it's Carlos Ulberg's time. He's 34, which is like prime age a lot of times at light heavyweight. Long kickboxing experience, like the background in absolute striking only, and then developing a grappling skill set. Being a good athlete, being younger. I think he's fighting Jan Błachowicz also at the perfect time, man. And I'm going to say it's a time is now type moment. I think that Carlos Ulberg wins. Remember when Jan got ran over by Glover? Old man Glover destroyed Jan. And then he followed that up with, the fight against Rakic, where Rakic got injured. And then he went tooth and nail with Ankalaev, but he was getting beaten up at the end. His leg kicks were great, but Ankalaev evolved his game because of that fight. And then against Pereira rather, he gives a good performance. He gives a tough fight to Pereira and was, wrestling him. That was the key factor. Winning a couple striking exchanges, but definitely got hit more than Pereira, for sure. Pereira outlanded him. I think Carlos Ulberg can outland Jan. I think Jan's aging at this point. I don't know where he's at after the shoulder injury. He could look worse than ever before. At 42, we're looking at Marvin Vettori last week. I'm not saying he showed signs of slowing down necessarily, but he got outworked by Kutateladze. He was coming off the shoulder injury, 31, 32. Now we got a guy 10 years older coming off a serious shoulder injury. I think it's going to be hard to bounce back from, man. I'm going to say that a primed, hungry Carlos Ulberg hands Jan Błachowicz another loss. So, yeah. I'm going Ulberg for the dub, taking out the legendary Polish power. Now, he's a big favorite around minus 245, but I can't say I disagree with the odds. You have to favor the younger guy who's been looking great. Opened up as a big favorite. Jan around plus 235 as the underdog. And then looking towards, let's see, over 2.5 rounds is minus 150 with an under at plus 120. I'll decide later in the week. I think there's a chance for an Ulberg knockout. I'm curious what that prop's going to be. But I think Ulberg could snipe him. The thing about Ulberg, though, he's also very willing to be technical and patient. And he could pick his shots and just outwork Jan over 3 hard rounds and technically beat him in a good striking affair. So I do think Ulberg has multiple ways to win it. And I see him getting his hand raised at the end of it all. So we're going Carlos Ulberg for the W in the co-main event. No more legendary Polish power. Let's jump to the main event. If you guys haven't yet, make sure you hit the likes. If you're new, subscribe. We got Leon Edwards versus Sean Brady. I'm going with Sean Brady. Guys. I think Sean Brady is the essence of freak. Crazy gas tank. Ever-improving striking skill set. You have to give him credit for getting better at striking. Nasty takedowns. Great control. I get it. It was Kelvin Gastelum, but I have to sing the praises. He made Kelvin Gastelum look like he never wrestled before. He destroyed Kelvin on the ground and he Kimured him. I thought that was super impressive. And then was able to beat Gilbert Burns, who's a very strong grappler. And I feel like Sean Brady just looks like he doesn't get tired. He's in your face the whole time. Very strong pressure-based style. Striking flow has gotten better. Boxing is not bad at all. He's got actually a relatively stiff jab. He's developing decent hands. Reminds me a bit of Bilal at times. I won't lie to you. Sean Brady and Bilal, they're sort of looking like cousins or something like that these days with the way that they fight. And that's the only loss for Sean Brady was Bilal. And Bilal had a great performance that night. But since then, I feel like Brady turned a corner and looks levels better. Brady's grappling is really nasty. His jiu-jitsu is really good. Say what you want, Bilal's got great wrestling, but on paper, jiu-jitsu-wise, I would say that Brady's better. Leon is a slick striker from long range. He's a smooth striker. Calm, picks his shots nicely. Likes to fight off the back foot, right? But I feel like that back foot style gets you pushed towards the cage. When you take it on a guy that seems to have an endless gas tank, who has a strong pressure-based style already, and he wants you going backwards, the Leon counter shot KO doesn't seem likely. Leon doesn't have a big punch. Leon's defensive grappling skills are solid. All right. Give credit. Give credit. He had moments even against Bilal taking his back. But overall, he's losing to these guys that are very good at grappling. I think that the movement of Leon is going to be an aspect he's going to try to use. He's going to try to keep on that bicycle. I think he's going to try to stay away from Sean. He's going to try to land counter strikes. I think he's going to try to land big kicks to the body. They could potentially get caught. I think Brady's going to be in his face for a lot of this fight. I think Brady's going to find success with wrestling in this fight. And there's another aspect of it that's interesting. I understand Sean Brady coming in on short notice would maybe be a worry for some, but I think he keeps in great shape all year. It's actually the changeup of matchup, though. To be fair, for the first half of Leon Edwards' camp, he's preparing for a knockout puncher in Jack Della Maddalena. Now he needs to prepare for a guy that is in your face for 3 hard rounds, looking to punch you, but also looking to take you down and looking to strangle you or submit you in general or just dominate position and beat you up. The shift of the training camp, there had to be things that changed slightly because Leon's going to have to be more mindful of takedowns as he was training for Bilal, I'm sure. But even Colby had late success wrestling him. And I think Sean Brady would run circles around a Colby Covington. I think Sean Brady is cut from that Bilal cloth. And I think now he's starting to really find his stride in the UFC. Just recently had a kid as well. Father Brady for the W, man. And it's a legendary last name. Sean Brady, Tom Brady, bro. The most average All-American names, Sean and Tom, and the Brady last names. I feel like it's just a culmination of success, man. I don't think Leon Edwards is beating Sean Brady this week. And I think Sean Brady is going to put a pace on him. I think Sean Brady's going to out-grapple him. I think Sean Brady is going to cause Leon Edwards to doubt himself. We have seen that with Leon before where he begins to wilt in fights. Now, granted, came back beautifully against Kamaru Usman. And even in the fight against Bilal, for a lot of it, he wilted and he lost himself. But at the end, doing nasty damage with elbows and sliced Bilal's face up bad. But it's about winning over the 5 rounds. Leon has these moments, but at the end of the day, right? Lost to Bilal last time out. Was losing the Usman fight before the beautiful head kick. Lightning ain't striking twice. Even against Colby Covington, late in the fight, taken down. I feel like Sean Brady secures some key takedowns, wins some key moments, even takes the back of Leon, lands decent shots. I feel like Brady takes a 49-46, 48-47 maybe if Leon's really on point. But I'm going to say Brady outworks him. The grappling should be better. The physicality should be better. And I think that Brady's hungry for that title shot. I feel like losing the belt and getting back to it's damn hard. Brady never even tasted a title yet. Just took his first pro loss a few fights ago. And now he's showing improvement and improvement and improvement. Gas tank seems crazy. Boxing's getting better. Grappling skills are on point. Sean Brady's going to find a way to win. I'm going Sean Brady to win, unanimous decision. He's taking out Leon Edwards in the main event. That's how I see it. I feel like the grappling's too much. He's going to be in Leon's face. I don't think Leon can keep him at bay with his kickboxing for all 5 rounds or even 3 out of the 5 rounds. I think Leon's going to try to be on the bicycle and landing combos, but I could see Brady landing shots through the guard. I think Brady's going to be very, very aggressive with the clinch grappling attack, if not just takedowns outright. And I think he'll be successful with them as well. So I have to favor the guy that I think is better at grappling, better at wrestling, jiu-jitsu. I think better gas tank, Sean Brady as well. Kickboxing flow, I favor Leon. Boxing skill set, I don't think Brady's that far off. Leon's not a heavy puncher. Brady's boxing's not bad. He's developing a good jab. I think his boxing's come long ways. Philadelphia guy takes out the guy nicknamed Rocky in England. This is just a story written in the stars already. Sean Brady for the W. Biggest win of his life. He's actually the favorite here around -160. Opened up as a slight favorite around -133. Isn't that interesting? But plus 130 by Bet Online. Wow, he's the dog from them. Line completely flipped. Plus 137 from Leon Edwards. And let's see, is there anything worth looking at? Over 2.5 rounds, -188. I mean, I do think it probably goes over 2.5. Over 4.5, -180. Fight goes distance. All right. I'm not looking at those odds. I think that Sean Brady wins. I picked him last time when he took on Gilbert Burns. I thought that it was his time now. With this fight here against Leon, even though Leon's not necessarily old, I just think it's Sean Brady's time now, man. I think Sean Brady finds a way. He outworks Leon over the 5. I think he's just got a little more grit, man. We're going with Sean Brady to win the main event. Those are the predictions for UFC London, and I'm damn excited for this card, actually. This was a very fun breakdown. This is going to be good, man. You got, Leon in the main trying to bounce back. You got Brady trying to chase that dream of, fighting for a belt. And with the win, he's going to be super close to it. I think he's getting it. I hope you guys enjoyed the predictions. Definitely let me know in the comments what you thought of the picks. The live flip to Kevin Holland, to be honest, that was my initial lean. I don't know what was happening. I just left it up to intuition, and the intuition told me, listen, Kevin Holland to find a way. I'm sick of this Gunnar Nelson crap. I hope you guys agree with that too. I think a lot of you are thinking the same thing. We all want Kevin Holland to bounce back. We need Big Mouth winning at least one out of his last 3, for God's sake. Thank you guys for tuning in. Hit the like if you haven't. If you're new, welcome to the channel. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. W's in the comments, but if you got nothing to say, but listen, if you do got something to say, let me know down below. I love and appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you guys for tuning into the show. Make sure you turn on the post notifications. I got daily videos and live streams. You don't want to miss a thing. Thanks for watching, everybody. I see you all in the next one. Peace out.